Primero vamos a presentar a nuestro keynote speaker, Tariq King. Tariq, un momento, por favor, ya te hacemos presente. Estamos muy contentos y muy orgullosos de tener un speaker de la jerarquía de Tariq, con lo cual yo a Tariq le prometí que le iba a dejar el clima arriba. Así que, no sé, aplausos, gritos, lo que quieran, pero genera un poquito de clima. Bueno, vamos, aplausos. Vamos. Más. Tariq, bienvenido. Bueno, bien, vamos bien. En el próximo speaker vamos a hacer una ola, ¿sí? Una ola donde el que se pare va a ser shhh, y vamos a hacer una olita, así que... Pero eso cuando vayamos avanzando va a ser la versión 2.0. Tariq va a hablar va a hacer su charla que se llama Human Experience Testing, ¿sí? Redefiniendo la calidad del testing en épocas de IA, ¿no? Así que, Tariq, no te robo más tiempo. Adelante, por favor. Un placer.
Gracias. Oy, wow. Okay, here we go. Javier, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I didn't realize there was going to be so many people. I thought it was going to just be like, one or two people. But I guess you all showed up, right? So we're going to have a lot of fun today. And I hope you enjoy the experience, right? We're living in a very exciting time for testing and for testers. And there's a big part of that I'm going to share today that makes me uncomfortable. So one of the challenges for me is that I plan today to share about myself. And I typically have a hard time sharing about the accomplishments that I've made and things that I've done. But in order to set the stage for where we're going in this age of artificial intelligence, I need you to understand where I have come from, right? So human experience testing, we'll end up there. That's the destination. And on the way, we'll talk about AI. And of course, you can't turn without hearing something new about artificial intelligence. Actually, it seems so overwhelming sometimes because we thought it was moving fast when ChatGPT came out, and now it's like every minute. It's not even like every day, right? It's like every minute there's a new advancement. And you all have to deal with it and try to make sense of it. And I don't know how our younger generations are going to do, but I know one thing is for sure, AI is definitely here to stay, right? But there's some things that we need to clear up, right? So how many of you have heard these things in the last few months? AI is going to take over testing. Testers, you just need to learn prompt engineering. That's it. You do that and you're good to go, right? This is one of my favorite ones. We no longer need manual testers, right? Y'all are dead, right? Yes, all them talking, a lot of dead people talking. Hopefully not dead people walking. We went to the cemetery. It's kind of scary over there. And agents are the future of test automation. So there's no doubt about it. It's transforming how we look at software testing. And of course, I need to disclaim, I'm not here to bash AI. Actually, many of you know me because of artificial intelligence. And so you wouldn't think that I would come here to give an anti-AI talk, right? So it's not anti-AI, right? But there's some things that need to make sure we level set. So first of all, one thing to understand is my journey and my path. And I've been very famous for doing a number of things, mostly crossing over, right? So I actually started my career as a professor at North Dakota State University after getting my PhD from Florida International University. And then I moved into industry, right? I started in testing, ended up crossing over into artificial intelligence. I started in a pretty large company, 5,000 people, crossed over into a startup company with about 30, 40 people, and now work for EPAM, Test.IO, which is 60,000 people. But most important crossover that I ever did to show you how resilient I am is that I am from Barbados, right, which is in the Caribbean, and I have lived in Fargo, North Dakota. Fargo, North Dakota at times gets to negative 40 degrees. And you choose which temperature, Fahrenheit or Celsius, it doesn't matter. This is the same temperature. Negative 40, right? So that's me. But I'm going to take you back to 2009 when I was working a lot in this building. This is FIU's campus in Miami. And that's particularly the computer science building where I spent most of my time. And back then, I was working on my dissertation on how can we actually get machines to test themselves, right? This idea of autonomic self-testing. I was looking at a space that no one was really looking at, although they were talking about related things. For example, back then, both IBM, Microsoft, HP, were all looking at the future of computing as this adaptive computing, autonomic computing, computers that can self-heal, self-protect, self-configure. But no one was saying that if we're going to have machines do all these dynamic self-star characteristics, that these agents that are deployed in the software can make all these changes at runtime, and that we would actually need to test them, right? Self-testing would need to be an implicit characteristic if we're going to do all this dynamic behavior. So my PhD dissertation was all about how do we get agents to test the other agents in the software. 2009. Why do I say this? To brag about my PhD? No, I hate talking about this stuff. But what I hate more than that is seeing that there's vendors out there talking about the fact that they invented autonomous testing. I was like, really? 2009. Most of these companies started in 2014. So the idea of autonomous testing that you hear about today was something that I wrote about in my dissertation. It was the basis of my PhD work. And why is that significant? Well, I think that I'm a person that always kind of talks a little bit about what's going to happen. I don't like to just stick on where we are now. I love to know where we're going, right? And even back then, I could tell that we were going somewhere. See, after that academic exercise, I joined industry, and I joined a company called Ultimate Software. And at Ultimate Software, in 2015, my boss came and asked me, hey, what do you think is the future of testing going to be like? Like, you're our chief quality architect. What do you think is going to happen in the next few years? And I said, well, I think the machines are going to learn how to test themselves eventually. This is where I think we're going. And so while at Ultimate, the boss wrote a blank check and said, hey, y'all can start a team. Go and start a team. Get some of the best engineers and go off and learn how to integrate AI and apply it to software testing. So what did we call the project? Pterodactyl, right? We took an ancient dinosaur and used it as our name. Diony Santiago, who's sitting right here, was on that team with me. And so we started applying AI to testing in practice in Ultimate Software back in 2015. So it's been 10 years, if you don't count my dissertation, it's been 10 years that I've been applying AI to testing. And we did cool stuff. We built a really cool system that would crawl the application, build a state model, apply different testing techniques, all using AI and machine learning, reinforcement learning, supervised learning techniques to crawl the application and find bugs and report them, to analyze user requirements, user stories, and help people train and classify the system accordingly. And we filed patents. So I hold patents, main patent on a system for autonomously testing a computer system, along with Diony and 4 or 5 other people. And other sub-patents to that. So if you don't count my academic work, you can count my industry work and my patent that I still started before these people that claim to have invented something. We actually love to share with the community, which is why we're here in Argentina, why we jumped at the chance to come to the first inaugural TESTEAR.LA conference. And And so we open source some of our work. Most of that work, Dione did and focused on how can we actually build something that people can then pick up and use, right? And show them how it works, right? So show them how we can deploy agents and an orchestrator at the top level to start testing the application and applying boundary value analysis and equivalence partitioning and attacking the software. Again, still out there, prototype called agent, autonomous generation and exploration in test. This will look a lot like the tools that you'll see nowadays being marketed. But this was a long time ago. So fast forward to 2019, we joined TESTEAR.LA, which was a Gradient Ventures funded startup. So Gradient is Google's AI research arm. So Google was a lead investor. And of course, if Google is the lead investor, there's going to be some influence from Google. But our mission was to test the world's apps using AI. So I was helping to lead a platform team that was building machine learning models and applying that to functional testing, to testing applications in the App Store, to doing cross-functional things, testing a lot of different aspects of it. And we shared freely what our architecture looked like, our platform called Carbon. And it was with my buddy Jason Arbin that we really started to push what we thought was going to be the future of testing and test automation. These agents testing software, using computer vision, using natural language processing. And we did it at scale, at enterprise scale, right? Like I said, for Google, we had 3 projects. We helped Microsoft launch their Game Pass game streaming software. We helped Epic Games test Fortnite. So again, if you don't count my academics, if you don't count my internal project at Ultimate, at least count my enterprise scale experience. And I wrote down all this stuff in a book. All the experience that we had testing mobile and web applications, testing the Play stores, testing games, testing video streaming. A lot of hard problems that you could only test with AI and machine learning. And it was good that I wrote that down. You'll see why a little bit later. But fast forward to 2022, and of course things changed a lot in 2022 for the AI space. And I had actually joined EPAM in 2022, trying to get away from all this AI stuff. I wanted a break. I wanted to go back to the roots of my first love in software testing. And so I became a VP and CIO level consultant. I headed up their open source tool projects. And I said, I just want to do some testing again. And then ChatGPT comes and ruins it all. Because the minute that happened, my boss looked at me and said, I know you wanted a break, and I said you could do whatever you wanted, but we need some help here. This AI stuff is getting out of control real fast. And so at EPAM, you really do things at scale. The whole thing is, and we still see it today, is that everyone is trying to use AI and machine learning to increase productivity for all sorts of things, automating things, building products, using it throughout the software lifecycle. For testing, of course, like there's a ton of use cases from test case generation to analysis, et cetera. All sorts of quality engineering bits laced throughout that. Test data generation. And so had to help start to pioneer this and pilot this at EPAM. And it was really about guiding people through the process. Like there's just a lot of nervousness when it comes to getting started with AI, right? Picking up and understanding that there's secure ways to start. It doesn't all have to be shaky and scary. But you need to upskill people. People need to learn how to interact with these models and these machines. And it was cool because, earlier this year I got to work with the folks at Crowder and kind of walk through the expertise that I learned throughout this journey and just bring it to other folks so that other consultants and other people can help others use this responsibly. Because it's not just about using it. It's about using it responsibly and making sure that there's value at the end of the day, right? And productivity is not something that's very easy to measure in any case, right? But we built tools, right? Open sourced them. That's what EPAM is also known for, AI Dial. our Alita platform, which is a collaboration platform. So I've been pivotal in that. Also decided that, hey, we need to scale this to the world, right? The way to do that is through a certification. And I teamed up with Brightest and Artificial Intelligence United and said, hey, I will help with this prompt engineering course, but it has to be very practical. And so we created like 85 exercises for a certification in test engineering using generative AI. It's not your typical ISTQB type of certification. Nothing wrong with ISTQB. I am a member and a head of the Caribbean Testing Board. But there's still a disconnect sometimes between academic type work and practical work, and I didn't want that for this. So what is this all about? My current state of affairs is helping people become more productive with AI. And when I say more productive, I don't just mean things faster. Because if you just get more quantity without making sure that there's a certain level of quality, or if you can't actually scale that efficiently, you have nothing. So all three of these things need to move together for productivity gains. And it requires a multi-tiered approach. And I put all this here just to show you that I'm not talking, I'm walking a talk, not just talking. Like, we help clients do this for real in testing, using multiple levels of metrics and using multiple approaches and upscaling on prompt engineering and using the latest tools to make sure that people can use AI for testing and see benefits from it. And what was cool was that all that work in the testing practice that started in the testing practice at EPAM became something that the whole organization was looking at and saying, hey, if you can do that for testing, can we use that for requirements engineering? Can we use that for DevOps? And we're like, yeah, don't see why not. And so our whole platform just evolved into this collaboration platform, from us building tools for testing and test automation to us now supporting the entire company in our methodology. And our methodology is very simple. It's called AI Run. You got to crawl before you walk, before you run, right? And so you start by piloting AI, right? Understanding where it can be applicable in your software process. What are those use cases? And just thinking about ROI from early, but not needing a formal model. And then you want to expand that AI usage and really scale it and focus on how can you optimize. And then you're going to run. You're going to scale that across your organization at enterprise levels. Emily came just 1 minute after the brightest slide. Hey, Emily. So, where are we going? I tell you all of that just to say this one thing. Why should you listen to me about AI? All of that experience. And what do I have to say about what's going to happen in the future is that there's an imminent takeover of the entire life cycle. If people are thinking, no, this is not coming, this is not going to change, no, this is coming, it's going to change everything. Now, does it mean you should panic and run out of here and everyone should quit their testing jobs because we don't need testers? That's not what it means. And we'll talk about exactly what it means. But understand, the first thing that I'm saying is that AI is going to take over testing and software engineering and requirements engineering and DevOps. It is that powerful, and it's going to take over these things. And the future is these agents, right? The agents that we were talking about, at least I was talking about since 2009. And so what does that mean? It's not a replacement from my messaging here. It's a repositioning. And there's an important difference between replacement and repositioning. You see, if you play chess, you know that a pawn is very limited in its mobility, right? It can move in a very limited amount of directions and in a very limited amount of space forward. But there comes a point, even in that limited state, where the pawn can be in a position where the next move transforms it into the most powerful piece on the board. And this is what AI is going to do for you as testers. Doesn't matter if you're a manual tester, if you're a software test engineer, whatever you call yourself, give the label, put it there. AI can help you power up tremendously. There's no doubt about it. See, a lot of people think that AI is going to replace testers and you're going to get fired. Why would I fire someone who knows how to use AI really well to help improve productivity for testing? Those testers are going to get promoted, not fired. Now, how you respond to what you're doing and whether or not you decide to take up the challenge, that's on you. But if you're not one of those testers, there's still a place where you might be, but it's not going to be there where you think you currently are right now, because that whole life cycle is going to change. So you see, there's 3 things that testers are going to do in the future in this age of AI and how quality is going to be shaped up. Back in 2015, when I wrote this book, I wrote down some things predicting the future, right? And how the takeover was going to happen. So this is not my first time saying it. I wrote it down and I said AI is going to take over these different levels of testing, and they're going to start taking over non-functional cross-cutting concerns, performance, accessibility, etc. You're going to see AI in all of these things. And of course, it leaves people nervous when I start saying AI is going to take over testing, and you start wondering, well, what's going to happen to testers? Well, either you're going to be using AI for testing, or you're going to be testing the things that the machine can't test. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because there's some things the machine still can't test. Or you're going to be testing AI. There's no other options. I looked. There's none. If you don't want to fit into one of these things, then different career path. Which is fine. You might find something better to do than testing. I haven't. So, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? And if AI takes over and we have fully autonomous testing, it's not where we are right now, but if we have fully autonomous testing, then what does that mean? Well, even if AI could do fully autonomous automated testing, and that were true, you would have a lot of software tested, but nothing experienced. You see, even the most complicated system, AI machine learning system, is still built for a human. And until AI can sit in your physical space, eat the food and drink the drinks that you drink, until AI is doing that, then there's still going to be things that machines can't test. They can't feel like us. They can't really think like us. Even if they can simulate reasoning like us, it's not the same. And so experience, even though it's tried to be simulated through data with artificial intelligence, is not something that machines can do. They can't experience anything. All right, so I had a lot of fun in Uruguay, and I was like, I can't come to Argentina and do the same thing as Uruguay, right? That would just not make sense. But so I went to Africa this year. It's the shirt. And my wife bought me this Explorer hat. Why is this funny? This is not part of the joke. All right. Do that. This is a process to get this thing on. That's got to be good enough. I need to be able to see y'all still, right? So it's about to get serious right now. Hopefully I got enough time. Let me check the time. It's a good time to check the time. I don't even know what time we started, but I figure it's a good time to check the time. I think we're okay. So, machines can't experience things like we can. And what does that mean? That means that there's a whole bunch of testing that we still need to do. And actually, I've been very quiet over the last month or two, hoping that the people who are, instead of focusing on this topic, they're out there bashing and saying what AI can't do. It can't count R's in strawberries or whatever. Like, who the heck cares? But I was hoping that they would go back to their roots and recognize that there's a big opportunity for us in the testing community. You see, human experience testing is really a step beyond what we think of when we think of traditional usability testing or user experience or product experience testing. Those normally focus on digital touch points, right? Like the app, I click here, I enter here, I log in here, I do this. That's what that normally focuses on. But human experience testing, which I'm defining in this space in the age of artificial intelligence, is much more than that. Yes, there are digital touch points, but there's also physical touch points. And actually those physical touch points integrate and somehow overlap sometimes or cross over to the digital world and vice versa. But then there's also experiential touch points, like really how did it make you feel as a human being, right? And so this is the idea of human experience testing, right? Human experience testing, which we are defining as a systematic, data-driven approach to evaluating the end-to-end customer journey of a product, service, brand, and looking across these digital, physical, and experiential touch points. You see, it is about designing software and testing software, not just for a persona, but for a person, right? And in the age of artificial intelligence, this is even more important because this technology is very far-reaching and can do a lot of damage to us as humans as well, right? So regardless, this testing is important, but it's about to become a lot more important, right? And it's really about real people, how real people perceive, feel, and respond to their journeys, and knowing that there's context, expectations, and prior experience. It's all in play. So that's my definition of human experience testing. But I don't like to just deal in definitions, right? We got to actually like do something, right? And so this is my introduction. So welcome to the workshop portion of the keynote, right? My keynote is layered, right? And let's learn how to do something. So I had to come here. It was quite a journey. I came from Fort Lauderdale. And I ended up in Montevideo. We'll talk about that a bit. But then I went from Montevideo to Colonia and del Sacramento, and then from there, here. And I came with my family. They're gone now. Praise God that they're home safely. Yeah, you watched that, right? He was like, ooh, no. I said, praise God that they're home safely. You see how I did that? Not praise God that they're gone, but praise God anyway. But they're home now. And it was a journey for us. I have two daughters, 7 and 12. And you can start thinking about all the touch points throughout that journey, right? Starting with purchasing from that ferry, directferries.com, and getting to the terminal, checking in, giving our bags, right? Trying to start to go through the security checkpoint, which was very interesting. And then immigration, right? Because you're dealing with Uruguay and Argentina, right? So there's actually like two little stops there that you got to watch carefully, but all part of the immigration process, right? Biometric screening, getting on board, actually getting in there. This ferry was amazing, by the way. Like, I thought this was going to be a little boat to take me across the way. Nope. Quite an experience. Many of you have probably done this before, but this was first for me. And, you know, there's technological integration, right? That was actually a bit of technology with a bit of experience, right? The story of how they made that craft showing as you're going from one point to the next was rather interesting to watch, like the engineering feat. And that was really cool. And like, of course, you have to have coffee. Like, we can't survive without coffee. But there's actually a whole store on board. You could buy whatever you want. There's actually duty-free shopping. I had to keep my wife away from that part. So we sat not facing those stores. So she doesn't know it's there, and I didn't take any pictures. But there's all these touch points, right? And that was our journey. And you can start to think that throughout the journey, people take things and feel things a little bit differently. You see, like, we start off pre-departure and everyone is all happy, right? But it doesn't mean that just because you started from the same state, that when you're done, that you're all gonna end up in the same state, right? So my wife was fine. My 12-year-old, she was like right in the middle, don't care, like, okay, we're here. But someone was a little bit cranky. And so Mackenzie is like, being the youngest, also, she's also like the daddy's girl. So when her face is like that, I have the problem. No one else has the problem. It's me. I have to deal with it. So, you see me taking a picture, and there you go, right? But because we're dealing with people, and also remember, you may not start from the same state. Like, they are probably very optimistic about everything. I'm thinking, I haven't finished my slides, and I need to make my slides about all of this stuff, so I got a lot of work when I get there, and I still got to show them around, make sure they have a good time. How am I going to manage all of that? So I'm probably in a different state than them, and even if you are in the same state and you're seeing the same experiences, you perceive them very differently, and there's different contexts and persons behind all of that, right? But there's a lot that goes on, right? It's very cumulative. It's not just that, trip or the pre-departure. After you get out, what is the signage to get to your baggage? What about accessibility? Like, hey, there's this escalator, but what if someone couldn't walk? Like, what happens there, and how do they navigate around that? And what about translations, right? There's these signs, but I may not speak the language. Can I really still find my way there and continue going? And it's cool. Like, you are thinking about testing the world. Whereas when I was at TESTEAR.LA, we wanted to test the world's apps. Now I'm thinking about testing the world that we live in. And the world that we live in will be this mixture of touch points. And AI will be integrated into all of that, right? Of course, it was great. We had actually a very smooth trip. Like, we got there, found where we needed to get our bags. You'll see as we creep through here, there's also, digital technological integration, right? There's screens on the baggage carousel. Bag came out right away, like one of our bags just after a minute. Like, we literally got there, and this is the first bag, right? And so all of those things matter. How long you're waiting in lines, everything contributes to that overall experience. Now, why was Mackenzie cranky? Not because she didn't get her bag in time, just because she actually felt that the trip was too short. Because she had been on a 12-hour plane ride and got to be on her tablet for like 12 hours, and here comes this ship in an hour and a half, it's done. And so she's like, why are we here? Why continue? And you'll see her in the corner there, just still not happy. But it's not just that, right? These things are cumulative. As I said, we had to get to Montevideo. So 1 week earlier, we were taking a different trip. And to go to Testing Uruguay, I did a similar thing there, quite different to what I'm doing here. But here's the summary of what I did there, right? Because I had a results page, and you can actually see how you can track this type of testing. You might start with a part of the experience, right? Our pre-departure flight from Fort Lauderdale, and how we were feeling. We were very optimistic. We were, happy about the technological advances, so we can slice that vertical. The physical touch points, it wasn't cool to have to now wait after mobile check-in in a line to drop our bags, so that kind of slumped us down a little bit, right? And the group lanes weren't very organized. Or you can just think about grouping all that together and not splitting out the touch points. So what was my whole in-flight experience like? Well, it looked like this, right? It had comfortable seats, wireless entertainment. I appreciated the food selection because we were going to Panama City, and they had Panamanian drinks, which was cool. And we need to sleep. This is a long flight. And again, you continue seeing the emotional unfolding of the journey. So you're quantifying each set of experiences, looking at the touch points, including the experiential touch points. And some touch points are pretty big. Like when we actually got there, there were some technological things wrong on the floor. We won't get into that, but the kiosks weren't working very well. Janaina is here, probably. Hopefully she doesn't get mad. But yeah, there were some bugs there. But then once we got out and we started driving along the coast of Montevideo, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered, right? We were back on the rise again, right? This is experience testing. And we're here. live. This is the most meta slide you'll see because you feel like you're looking at yourselves, right? But you can do experience testing today, live, throughout this conference, right? Like there's all these touch points that you have to think about. There's technological integration. Can you see, if you sit in the back, how comfortable are the chairs, right? When you start thinking about the spaces, right? Is there more than what you need to enjoy and have and build memories? Is that well done? What about the food? I saw you all earlier. You came in and you didn't get very much further than the table back there, right? That tells me something. And then how's the service? How are the servers, right? Are there signs? Is there good signage? Is there translations for those? Are you here to reconnect with friends? Martine is here. And I nearly had a fit and a conniption, right? Or are you here for the speakers, right? And how is your conference experience in that respect? And then if you're a speaker, like how's the tech guys doing, right? I told you I'd make you famous, bro. But most importantly, and I couldn't do this twice, right? The organizers, right? The people who help you get here. See, Martine, you got the spotlight last time. Now she gets all the spotlight. That's how this works. Mariela, thank you. So, you can make this real. I'm not just talking about conferences. I'm talking about anything. And I actually started this experiment back in Uruguay with Pedidos Ya and continued with Pedidos Ya right here, right? But think about any client, any experience that you have. What does that customer journey look like? What are those touch points? Well, how do people get impacted as they go throughout that journey? We've done a number of things. I've ordered food, groceries. Last night, Diani was in another location and said, hey, I'm hungry. This app won't work. It's a buggy app, by the way. They need to do some work there, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But I was like, don't worry, bro, I got you. And I ordered food for him from my Airbnb to go to his hotel and saved his life again. I'm always the hero, right? But it's really about thinking about customers. You know, this aligns testing with customer growth and customer retention. And this is very, very important. This gives testing business value right away. No one's going to throw you out if you're doing this type of testing. That can make them more money because you justify the ROI right away through the type of testing that you're doing. And so remember that. Satisfied customers are the core of business success. You need to be able to validate the assumptions that you make as leaders, as technologists. And this type of testing will do that for you. Also remember that there's a lot of cultural and demographic diversity that you need to cover. And you can't just cover it in a bubble. You need different types of people testing all the different types of software, including the AI software. And this is experiential part is really how people build brand loyalty, why they come back and use something over and over again, why they bring their friends. And this type of testing aligns with that. And so there's many different types. This is going to be something that I think is going to become a pillar in the future, especially as AI takes over more and more types of testing. It's not going to go away, right? And so something to think about, this kind of in-field experience testing. How do you get real user feedback into those products? And how do you do targeted experiments and pilots, right? Apparently you can order gas tanks from Pedidos, yeah, so that's how it goes. All right, so to wrap it up, like I mentioned to you, you're going to be doing one of three things if you're in testing. The last one here is not without most importance. You know, the focus of this talk was experience testing because we can have a lot of fun with that. But a big part of experience testing is making sure that AI is working for humans and it is not causing damage. And you need to be able to do that, right? Because this is highly dynamic software, highly adaptive systems that change at runtime, that need testing. They're actually quite a big human and societal impact that they can leave if you don't get this right. And last but not least, this is a hard technical challenge. AI systems and the boundaries of the AI components change a lot just from data changes, can change a whole architecture, can change your runtime behavior. It needs to be retested. And so this is also a big grand challenge in addition to testing the entire experience, right? So be aware that if you are someone who cares about the success of this technology, we need testers in this space, bringing a very holistic view of testing AI systems. How can we build them with quality throughout the life cycle, as well as test them after deployment once they're out there? And there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but I would suggest make it real, make it quantifiable, make it something tangible, right? Think about the different categories. Earlier this year, and I think I have a slide on it, I came up with a bunch of a taxonomy for testing AI systems and the different categories. I think I called it the testing iceberg. And I've been putting it into practice, right? Like actually just looking at how, if you're looking at malicious users and malicious intent, or if the AI is going to be somehow harmful by spewing bad things out or revealing privacy issues or concerns, right? There's technical types of AI systems, right, that are generating code, etc. How do you make sure that those are safe and secure? This is all up for grabs for anyone in the testing space. There's not enough focus on this right now. And so this is my iceberg. There's a post on LinkedIn about it. But it really just tells you that we are just scratching the surface when it comes to AI, and there's a lot of layers underneath, and you need to figure out how to actually test it in a concrete way with concrete examples of tests that you can run. And we've been doing this at TEST.LA. I've been doing this on my own. I've been doing this for very large and important clients, which I can't talk about. Some of them who were former investors. And it's cool. It's where you want to be because there's a future in this type of testing, for sure. And even if we think about automation and automating this thing using other LLMs, you still need human involvement. You still need a human baseline. And you need to be able to go from there. So with that, I hope that you are ready for the future of testing and understand that there's a lot that can be done. But this is really my view and my take on where we need to go. So what you decide to do, whether or not you decide to be the person who's using AI for testing or the person who's experiencing the AI out in the world and making sure that it works for humans and is aligned with human values, or you're testing the AI systems themselves, it doesn't really matter. We just need people with critical thinking skills and people who know how to test software and how to test experiences to lead the charge out there, right? Thank you.
Más. Bueno, a ver, vamos a hacer en vivo, un testing en vivo. Así que le gustó, más o menos. A ver, levanten los dedos. Foto, por favor. Sí.
Hold on. Let me get a picture. Hold on.
Picture.
I need to send this to my boss. When it comes to bonus time, all the thumbs up. There we go. All right. Never seen that before. Thank you.
Real time testing.
Real time.
Sí. Bueno, tenemos dos preguntas para hacerle a Tariq, para no desordenar la agenda. Tenemos dos preguntas y un micrófono. ¿Quién quiere comenzar? ¿Alguna duda, alguna pregunta? Hola. Anda, hola. ¿No? Tenemos unas preguntas allá al fondo. Martín, ¿me ayudás? Muchas gracias. Martín, it's helping us.
Run, Martín, corre.
Gracias. ¿Qué tal? Bueno, vamos a intentar hacer esto en inglés, a ver cómo sale. Mr. King, nice to meet you. My name... Hello? Hola.
Ahí está.
And I am a junior tester, okay? I have a question for you. How often do you believe it's necessary to check the results of your AI testing?
So, here's one thing I would tell you. We've been moving really fast, and that means that models are also moving really quickly. And on one side, models are becoming better, and we're seeing less hallucinations. But on the other side, changes are happening so fast that you just can't risk having it unattended. So I would say there should be a human in the loop across the board, right? And normally, like I think it's becoming easier and faster for you to review as you go through. But AI is not at the point where you just leave it, right? Unless you have something that's very low risk, it blows up, that's a different story. Even then, I would want to make sure if this is representing the quality of my work, that I check it. So I check everything. So how often? All the time. Every single time.
Thanks.
Until I tell you differently.
All right.
Or Martín tells you differently.
Ok. Bien, una más. Una, dale. La última. Una más y no jodemos más. Esta, vamos.
Hola, hola.
Hi Tarek, my name is Carolina Stephanie. Have a question. Like I've seen the human experience testing. It seems that it's a little seems to be focused to a B2C business perspective. Do you think that that can be applied to a B2B business perspective as well, or maybe that wouldn't be that so prioritized?
Yeah, no, it can apply across the board. So again, in introducing the topic, I just kind of use a very common thing that people can relate with. But I've seen already a demand for using this type of testing, for example, to help improve internal processes between collaborators or partners, even within an organization, one department to another department. I've seen us use it in a very technical manner, and right now we're doing experience testing for a full stack of ML experience, developer experience, right? So even though I talk about, and this is purposely why I use the word human experience, was because it's not just about customer or user, right? It's about the person and the people involved. And wherever you have any kind of process that involves people, you can apply this type of testing. And I think you can show the ROI in a very similar manner. And so it's something to kind of think about even for those processes. Great question.
Te llevaste un great question, ¿eh? Muy bien. Muy bien. Bueno, muchas gracias. Fuerte aplauso para Tarik.